Now, the other thing I've seen that President Trump has done is he's sent a delegation to the UK to investigate free speech suppression there. I mean, how embarrassing must it be for Keir Starmer and Labour that the freest and most powerful nation in the world is investigating your authoritarian government? The UK's aggressive policing of expression targets any dissenters. Most exemplified recently, I think, by the case of Lucy Connolly, a Northampton mother sentenced to 31 months in prison for a single tweet where she reacted emotionally to the Southport last year. Now, to quote her, she said, "Mass now set fire to all the effing hotels full of the bees," I think she means there, "for all I care. While you're at it, take the treacherous government and politicians with them. I feel physically sick. What with these Southport families will now have to endure. If that makes me, so be it." Now, the key phrase there is "for all I care," right? She's not inside. She's not saying go do it. She says, I could care less if this happens. So to me, there's quite a bit of difference there between an emotional reaction and actually inciting violence. Now, the tweet was viewed 310,000 times, but it was deleted within hours because she realized it wasn't the smartest thing to do. I agree with her there. It was not the smartest thing to do. But was she inciting violence? I don't believe so. Meanwhile, they're letting Muslim pedophiles go without any time at all because they're the only English speakers in their family. Or, oh, I'm sorry, I was schooled at an Islamic school and I didn't know that a girl was illegal. That's how some of these folks are getting off without any jail time in the UK. But what's happening to Lucy Connolly kind of mirrors the case of Thomas Robinson, who was charged with harassment for threatening to photograph journalists who did the same thing to him, who targeted his family. This reveals a pattern of selective prosecution. We aren't going to prosecute these leftist journalists who doxed and targeted and put in danger the family of Thomas Robinson, but we are going to prosecute Thomas Robinson for doing the same thing to them because, he's far right and we don't like him. So we're going to prosecute him, but not the left-wing biased journalists. So I really hope that Trump's delegation will look into the way Keir Starmer and the Labor government are politically persecuting Thomas Robinson and Lucy Connolly. And hopefully, their mission could expose this two-tier justice and push for free speech reforms in the UK. God knows they certainly need it there.
In a move already sending ripples through Westminster, former U.S. President Donald Trump is reportedly dispatching a delegation to the United Kingdom to investigate what he claims is a growing pattern of free speech suppression under the Labour government. And at the center of this political storm is a name already familiar to many, Lucy Connolly. For Prime Minister Keir Starmer, this couldn't come at a worse time. With Labour still adjusting to the weight of power after years in opposition, the sudden intrusion of Trump-era politics threatens to pull the government into a transatlantic culture war it never asked for. But like it or not, the scrutiny is coming, and Starmer's team is already on the defensive. Sources close to Trump's circle say the delegation will be composed of former State Department officials and legal advisors with a focus on civil liberties and allied nations. Though the move carries no formal diplomatic weight, its political symbolism is unmistakable. The UK is being singled out by America's most polarizing political figure for allegedly cracking down on dissent. Nowhere is this more politically combustible than in the ongoing saga of Lucy Connolly. Once a little-known activist, Connolly's legal and public battles have become a lightning rod for debates on speech, protest rights, and online expression. Connolly claims she was targeted for her outspoken criticisms of government policy and gender identity legislation, issues that have polarized British society and become political flashpoints for culture warriors on both sides of the Atlantic. In a Truth Social post earlier this week, the former president declared, "Keir Starmer's Labour is silencing the people. Britain was once a beacon of liberty. No more. My team is going to the UK to find out what's going on, and we'll tell the world." Downing Street has thus far refused to comment directly on the Trump intervention, When pressed during a recent press conference, a visibly irritated Starmer declined to address the delegation, saying only that freedom of speech in this country is protected by law and will remain so under this government. The Trump delegation is expected to arrive within the next 2 weeks and will reportedly meet with Connolly, as well as representatives from free speech advocacy groups, EMPs critical of Labor's civil liberties stance, and potentially legal experts involved in recent cases. Whether this amounts to anything more than a media circus remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. Keir Starmer now finds himself entangled in a free speech narrative that stretches far beyond Britain's borders. And in today's hyper-polarized global politics, that may be the most dangerous place of all.
The fact is that we've heard hate language coming out from someone as senior as this country's Attorney General. We're back to two-tier justice here, another example. Why is this man still in his position? This has been building up with this guy. He has supported and been behind the Chagos deal, which is a disgrace. He has defended Jerry Adams, an IRA sympathiser. He supported the return of Shababa Begum to the country. For goodness sake, how much more do we need to take of this man? And now, here he is today, calling 30% of this voting population in this country, because that's how many now are voting for supporting reform or pledging support to reform, now calling that many people in our population Nazis and using that sort of language. On the campaign trail, in the by-election, which I've just fought, then I was called a Nazi sympathiser 2 or 3 times. It's extremely upsetting. I am a common sense person, representing middle of the road, just normal people that want things to be fair and just. To call someone a Nazi is horrendous.
Why do you think people did that to you? First of all, it's horrible. That particular thing hasn't happened to me, but it could be called all the names of the day on social media. I'm sure it's much worse, A, for you as an MP, and B, for you as a woman, Sarah. Tell me just a sense of that. I mean, we need to be really careful. I believe in free speech, of course I do. We're the home of free speech. But you need to be careful about language and bandying around those kind of phrases, don't you? And you expect it sometimes from some trolls on Twitter or maybe the odd person in the street. But the Attorney General of this country?
It's a disgrace. As a politician, I know that our behaviour has to be scrutinised and be above what might be or may not be able to be brushed aside. I brushed aside comments that have been made to me. That's part of my role, campaigning and canvassing. But this person, this Lord Hermer, is in the public eye. He's representing this country. He is our Attorney General. I was a magistrate for 20 years. If I had said anything like this in the public eye, I would have been sacked effectively, if that's what you do to a magistrate, but forced to resign at least. Why is he still in position? I hope that Keir Starmer, I know he won't, but I hope he does the honourable thing and forces this man to go. But of course he won't, because Keir Starmer is all about two-tier justice. You've got someone like Lucy Connolly in prison for 31 months for what she said on Twitter, and yet this man, Lord Hermer, is out as our Attorney General.
I mean, he hasn't incited violence, Sarah, has he? It's different, isn't it?
Well, is that correct? By calling people
I'm sure he would deny inciting violence. He's not inciting violence by calling something, by referring to people.
I'm not saying he is or he isn't. I'm just saying this is inflammatory language. And we both know, because we're in the public eye, how dangerous this sort of stuff is.
Reform UK MP Sarah Pochin has condemned Attorney General Lord Hermer for making what she calls a disgraceful comparison between her party and the Nazis, blaming his remarks for fueling abuse during her campaign. On the trail, I was called a Nazi sympathizer 2 or 3 times, Pochin said. It was extremely upsetting. When senior figures like the Attorney General make these comparisons, they legitimize hate and silence debate. Lord Hermer sparked controversy last week during a House of Lords debate, warning of populist factions echoing tactics from 1930s Europe. Remarks widely seen as aimed at Reform UK. Party leader Richard Tice called the comments an appalling slur, and Pochin's response marks the most personal rebuke yet. While some Labour MPs defended Hermer, citing the need to confront dangerous rhetoric, Pochin accused the government of using historical trauma to suppress dissent. Labor elites would rather smear and slander than engage with real concerns, she said. With Parliament set to return, the clash over free speech, populism, and political tone is far from over, and Reform UK appears ready for the fight.